Hey, I'm Kyoko, and welcome to my DIY animal ear kit tutorial. I have the link to purchase the kit below. This is a guide for those of you who already have the kit, but you're of course welcome to stick around if you haven't bought it yet either. Alright, let's jump right in. In your kit, you will have 4 pieces of faux fur, 2 paintbrushes, a paint pot, a length of jewelry wire, airbrush paint thinner, a metal headband, your accessories, a paper template, and 2 EVA foam inserts. If you're working with solid colors like black fur on the back, white fur on the front, then cutting pieces out is quite simple. Make sure your fur is pointed the way you'd like it to, then trace around your template. Make sure there's a little room around the edges, then just cut it out. Be careful not to cut the fur, just the backing. If you have some creative ideas to try, like a black tip, spots, that sort of thing, then you want to trace the design directly onto your template. In this example, I'm doing a calico cat to show that you can be as creative as you want to be with these kits. After you have the design that you want traced out on the template, cut all of the little pieces out. And now you have a bunch of little templates to use. So this process can be a little tricky. You have to remember which way is up and which way is down when cutting your faux fur pieces out. In my case, I want every piece facing upwards against the fur, which is why it might seem like I'm wasting a lot of space. In reality, I'm just keeping that fur direction in mind. If you're using black fur and don't have any white pens, a piece of chalk does the trick as well. I also like to make sure all the pieces fit together correctly as I go. As for seam allowance, even if you decide against sewing them, you want at least a ½ centimeter around the outside edge when you're done. If you do end up sewing them, keep in mind that you're going to use a blanket stitch, so you won't be able to cut the excess off when you're finished. However, spots and that sort of thing are mandatory to sew for structural integrity. Here's how everything looks sewn. You can see I've made my stitches super tiny and close together. That's what's ideal for ears. Once you flip it over, you can see the design, and I honestly love this pair so much. Next up, we need to build a skeleton to hold the fur shape in place on your head. You're going to need your EVA foam, a length of wire, pliers, a wire cutter, the hot glue gun, and a measuring tool of some kind. Start by unraveling the wire with your pliers and straighten the end out. Then you want to measure about 2 inches and make a bend in the wire to mark it. Then right after the bend, measure about 2 centimeters and make another bend. That 2 centimeter length is going to go at the very bottom of your ears. Using the EVA foam as your guide, just bend the wire around the edges until it's snug. Once you've wired all the way around to the bottom again, you want to measure 2 centimeters, then bend again, then another 2 inches and make your cut. Here's where I'm being dangerous in the video. Please don't be like me, I don't condone this, but carefully hot glue the wire into place, don't touch the hot glue. Or if you're using the hot gluing method of construction instead of the sewing method, I'll show you a different way to do this in just a second. Once you have your skeleton done, you can either put hot glue on it and then stick it into the faux fur cover, or you can just stick it in and then put hot glue in the cover, or you can do both. Remember to do both sides of the EVA foam. Make sure to smooth it out though from the outside, or else you're going to have some problems later on. Finally, hot glue the bottom shut and cut off the excess. Comb out the fur afterwards to make sure there's none stuck to the bottom. After that, you'll have your first fully posable ear finished. Now I'm just going to show you again because this part is a little difficult, especially for beginners, but just work slowly and you shouldn't have any problems. Once again, just bend directly around the EVA foam. I like the wire snug as can be because I can get a cleaner edge later on. Remember to use pliers for sharp corners, it really helps. You also don't have to hot glue the wire to the edge if you're using the hot gluing construction method. If you're doing it that way though, I do suggest gluing the 2 small lengths of wire to the bottom. You may also have some extra wire left over at the end. You can do whatever you'd like with it, but there's no need to throw it away. Later in the video I'll show you, but I made an ear cuff out of the remaining wire piece. So here's the other way that you can construct your ears. Just take your skeleton and hot glue it to one piece of your fur, then add more hot glue and place the other piece of your fur on it. Once again, smooth it out or you could have some problems later on. Then carefully glue all around the edges of the fur and close it up. I highly suggest this method if you're a beginner and you're doing a simple design. You can also use pliers or just apply pressure with a cold metal butter knife to close the edges if you want to be as safe as possible, but in the video I just use my hands. Finally, cut all of that excess off. If there's any spots you missed, you can just add a teeny bit of glue and close it up. When cutting your edges, remember you can always cut more off, but you can never take it back. It's always safer to cut a little at a time. Now on to the shaving and trimming process. The way you decide to shave is entirely up to you. Everyone has different trimming styles they prefer. In the video, I'm just showing you the way I do it. Once again, just remember that you can always cut more off, but you can never take it back. You should always have a plan before you start trimming. Your comb is going to be your best friend for this. You can part the fur to get a super clean cut while you're trimming. Also, I said electric razors aren't necessary, but if you want that clean look at the end of the project, you need an electric razor. Don't use one for people unless you're okay with the razor breaking. You can also find some super cheap electric razors at Walmart if you want to use one for this project. I've found them for like $20 before. Just keep parting the fur into sections and cutting off larger pieces with scissors, then shave them down or cut them down super short. You can also add variation to the longer tufts, just be careful not to cut them off too much. Oh yeah, also be super careful not to cut your stitches open. I've done that a few times. I highly suggest looking at reference photos to figure out what you want them to look like before starting. Some ASMR for you guys. Now it's time to paint. Get your paintbrushes, paint pot, paint thinner, and freshly trimmed ears. You're also going to need a paper towel, a paper plate or paint palette, and a cup for paint water. For this set, I have to mix the paint to match the orange color of the ears. I just take some paint and mix it on the plate together until I have a color that I think is similar. I suggest comparing the color multiple times to the color that you're trying to create so you can get it as close as possible. This can take a while, but be patient and only mix a little at a time. You don't want to add too much of one color and have to restart. Once you have a color that you feel is close enough, add some paint thinner to it. You want about a 1:3 ratio of paint thinner to paint. Any more than that and the paint will bleed, any less and there won't be any spreadability. However, of course, you can use more or less on purpose to get different effects. If you want to paint the tufts of long fur, make sure to use as little paint on the brush as possible, and then use the comb to spread the paint, not your paintbrush. Once the paint is completely dry, we can do some fun little decorations. Inside the separated paint pot is a tack, a length of chain, 6 jump rings, 2 lobster clasps, 4 rhinestones, and 2 charms. If you'd like the ears pierced, take your tack and unsheath it. Then push the tack all the way through and wiggle it around. Don't take it out yet. Using pliers, open a jump ring until it's a C shape like this. Then remove the tack and replace it with the jump ring. Finally, use your pliers to close the ring. You can have up to 6 piercings if you'd like, or none at all, which is also perfectly fine. here's that ear cuff that I was talking about earlier. I like the way that it goes with these ears. To make your charm, just take the lobster clasp and attach it to the charm. Then close it with pliers. You can then hang them off of the piercings that you made earlier. To attach the rhinestones to your ears, use super glue. It's the only glue I've been able to use to make rhinestones stick. Be careful not to get any on your fingers though. Once the glue is dry and your ears are bedazzled, we're on to the final step. Take the headband out and start wrapping the wire from the bottom of the ears around it. Take your time to do this. You want it to be tight, but you don't want it to rip the wire out of the ears. You can also add a charm to the wire now while you're wrapping it if you'd like. Use pliers to force the wire flat once you're done wrapping it with your fingers. Attaching the ears like this instead of with glue makes them adjustable along the headband. And here are the finished ears. They're fully adjustable and posable and comfortable to wear. I can't wait to see how yours turn out, so be sure to send me tons of photos and use the hashtag KyokoDIY so I can see them. Thank you so much for purchasing my kit and watching my YouTube video. Until next time, bye-bye!